Welcome to the Feminine Voice of God, a podcast where the spiritual journeys of women take center stage. Join us as we delve into the depths of women's spiritual experiences, exploring their connections to God, Source, and Spirit. From profound moments of divine revelation to the exploration of the mystical and the psychedelic. We celebrate the diverse paths that lead women to discover the sacred within themselves and the world around them. Tune in as we amplify the voices of women who listen to the whispers of the divine and share the transformative stories of faith, love, and transcendence. This is the space where the feminine essence converges with the divine, offering a sanctuary for spiritual exploration and empowerment. Welcome to the Feminine Voice of God, a podcast dedicated to honoring the spiritual wisdom and unique journeys of women across the mystical landscape. Hello, my name is Nicole, and I am the Feminine Voice of God podcast host. And I'm here to share on this podcast the spiritual experiences of women and the different moments in their life that may have led them and guided them to a deeper spiritual path and spiritual journey, which I believe all of us are on. So this first episode is just a solo with me, and it's kind of me sharing about not only how I got this podcast idea and how this started, but also me sharing a little bit of my own spiritual journey. Now, I've never done a podcast. I'm not big on making videos, making voiceovers, putting myself out there. I just recently started doing something like that for YouTube with some of my meditation videos, etc. However, this isn't a big thing for me. So me starting this and creating this has really been a push out of my comfort zone. And there was a big part of me that felt like I didn't need to do it because, to be quite frank and honest, I don't like putting myself out there. I don't like doing that. It is challenging for me. I'm an introverted type of person. However, something was calling me to do this. So here I am. So this started with a book for me, and not my whole spiritual journey, but the creation of this podcast and the calling to do this podcast started with a book. And I had recently read a book, and the book was incredibly inspiring. It was sharing the experiences of women and their spiritual journey, their spiritual wisdom, their connection to God, their connection to Source, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was incredible. So fast forward, I had read this book. It's fantastic. I'm living life, doing my thing. I actually live in Los Angeles. I have a son that lives in Arizona, and I had driven out to see my son. We had recently had a lot of issues. You know, my son had his own path, has his own path, just like all of us. And we had a lot of issues come up. So me going out to see him was absolutely incredible. It was something I had been waiting to do for a really long time. So I'm out visiting my son in Arizona. You know, I'm doing my thing. I'm out in nature. The desert is so freaking beautiful. Specifically the sunsets, right? Like sunset, sunrise time is like incredible. Sunset is absolutely beautiful. So I'm driving home after our visit. I'm driving home and it's like that sunset time, right? I'm driving back to California, LA. I'm still in the desert area before you get to all of the Los Angeles traffic. And I get this like inserted thought into my mind, like poop, it just pops in. And it's like, you need to create a podcast. And it needs to be centered around women's spiritual experiences. And you need to connect it to this name. And the name was the name of the book that I had read. And I'm going to name the name of the book. At some point, I'm getting to that part of the story. So hang with me. And, I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. What is this thought? Like, I'm just driving. I'm thinking it's just this random thought. I'm good. Keep going, turn my music up, doing my thing, looking at nature. Then I stopped somewhere to put gas, grab some snacks, and there's this beautiful rainbow. It was like the whole half arc, colorful, in the desert, just right where the sun is going down, but it's not completely over the sun, but it's literally like right next to it. And there's these clouds. The clouds are so fluffy. It's incredible. And I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking, wow, the world is such a beautiful place. And in this moment, I feel so connected to Source, just being here with nature and Mother Earth. And then, boop, here comes a thought again. You need to create a podcast. And it needs to be centered around the spiritual experiences of women. This needs to be shared. And I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go again. I'm like, no, it's not happening, right? So then I'm driving home. I get back to LA. And when I get home, again, dink, now it's like a heavier hit, right? Coming in, not just a little pop, but like a heavy, like, you need to do this. This needs to happen. So I'm like, okay, first of all, I'm thinking these people that wrote this book are never going to allow me to use their book title. Like, it's just not going to happen. And how would I get the permission to do that anyway? I'm not going to write these people and ask them. I'm not going to go out of my comfort zone and reach out to them to make this a possibility and make it so. I put it to the side. Later, maybe like a week or so later, again, comes up. Another big hit. I'm asking you to do this. You need to do this. You need to do it. At the time, I'm also part of this self-improvement training. And during the self-improvement training, we're making goals of things that we want to do to change and improve our life, but not only our life, but the lives of those around us, not only our family, but like our community, people in the world. That's a big part of what this is about. I'm thinking, okay, let me just look at the book and see who these people are, the authors. So I look at the book, I find the authors' names, and then I look them up online. I find one of the authors' emails, and after scouring the internet, looking for their contact, I was like, there's no way I'm going to find any contact information for these people. I did. And at that moment, I didn't do anything with it because the voice inside of me, this other voice, was now like, who do you think you are writing these people, writing this author, asking them this? Of course, they're going to tell you no. There's no point in you even doing this. Why are you going to do this? Don't even attempt it. The answer is going to be no. And I know from my own work and practice of awareness that that's like the inner critic, right? That's the little devil on the shoulder coming to say, hey, don't attempt something. So, you know what I did? I just did it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to write this lady an email. I'm going to ask her. And what's the worst that can happen? This is the other voice now, right? The angel on the shoulder. What's the worst that can happen? She's just going to say no. So I send this email. Boom, email sent. Now, part of me, of course, the other voice, the part of me thinking, you know what? She's going to say no. And then what are you going to do? You're not going to create no podcast. You're not going to do that. Nothing's going to come of it. And the other voice at this point is silent. So I'm, put it in the back of my mind. I don't completely forget about it, but it's back there. So maybe like within the next week, I'm doing some stuff for work. I'm on my computer and I'm looking through my emails and I notice this email reply from the author of the book. And I'm like geeking out, right? I'm like, Oh my God, she responded to me. This is incredible. The fact that I had even gotten a response, I was elated. It was exciting. So I open it and she says something like, hey, thanks for writing. I included the message too about how I got this idea while I was driving from Arizona to California and how it was like this thing that just popped in my mind and I felt called to do this. She's like, thank you for writing. And, I'm going to write to my co-author. I'm going to include her in the next email and ask her. And she also said that normally they have not let people use the book title in the past for things when people have asked them. However, nobody owns a book title name. Technically, it's not really owned by them, but they do appreciate me asking. So I say, thank you. I'm so grateful. I appreciate you even taking the time to respond to me. And I'm waiting for the next email. Next email comes with her and the co-author together in the email. And they let me know that, hey, we appreciate you writing to us. We think that your idea is incredible. We love that you're not only thinking of doing this in the essence of the book, but also asking us, if we'd like to be interviewed, which I did. I said, hey, when I create this podcast, I would love to interview you guys and have you on it. They said they're not taking interviews. They're not open for that. And they would appreciate if I did not, I know my heart dropped, if I did not use the book title as my podcast name. However, they wish my podcast the best of luck and thank you. So of course I write back. I'm like, thank you, gratitude. I appreciate you responding and for letting me know, even if I could not use the book title name. So secretly, I'm kind of bummed, honestly. There's a part of me that was like, oh man, I wrote to them in this energy of thinking like, if I just do it and act on it, it's going to work out for me. They're going to say yes. How can they not? I'm coming out of my comfort zone to ask them and to do this. And then the other part of me, right, of course, is like, oh, I told you it wasn't going to work. Now what are you going to do? You can't create a podcast. What are you going to name it? That name was perfect. That was exactly what you wanted to name your podcast. So I kind of just let it fall to the wayside for a little bit in my mind. And I'm doing this leadership program, this self-improvement journey. And one of the things we're doing is creating these goals, like I explained before. And they were like, go out of your comfort zone. Like, what is something that you would probably never do, but that you feel called to do? And I'm like, damn, the podcast fits that. Okay. So I'm making my list of my goals. And one of them is to create this podcast. I don't have the name. And then I remember the first author saying that nobody really owns a book title name. So I could call my podcast whatever I want, is what she told me. And in that moment, it came to me. Now, this book is titled The Feminine Face of God, The Unfolding of the Sacred in Women. And it's by Sherry Ruth Anderson and Patricia Hopkins. And in that moment, what came to me was, call your podcast The Feminine Voice of God, because it is women speaking and sharing their experience on a podcast that people will be listening to. And my mind was blown. I was like, oh my God, this is going to actually fucking work out. And because the title is incredible. Like, those words are so powerful. And if you read this book, not if, but do read this book. Read this book. If you are listening to this podcast, pick it up and read it, because in there, the very beginning of the book, I have it right here. I'm gonna just turn to it so I can see where it was that I highlighted this. It's in the very first chapter. And it's called Chapter 1, The Question That Wouldn't Go Away. And it's about this word that's popping into the author's mind. And when she looks up that word means the feminine face of God. that in itself is so powerful. And in my experience, it was this voice that wouldn't go away, this voice that kept popping up for me. And that voice pushed me to create this podcast. So guess what I did? I wrote it on my goals and my leadership training that I was doing. And I shared it with people. That was another part that was really scary for me, was then sharing it with this group of people. There's like, I don't know, like 39 people that I'm posting in this group that I'm going to do this. So it's out there. I've put it out to the universe now. Like, it's not the secret thing that I'm thinking of doing that I'm going to shelf and be like, oh, maybe one day. Like, I've actually put it out there and people are like, oh my gosh, you need to do this. And there's people in my group that are also very spiritual that are like, I would love to be a part of this with you. I would love to be on this podcast. I'm like, done, right? I'm just flowing with the energy. I'm like, I'm going to do this. It's going to happen. And now that I've created it on this goal sheet that I have, it's created this new level of commitment for me, where this thing is going to happen and I'm going to see to it happening, because now there's that part, right, that comes up like, you can't fail now. You've posted it out there. You've shared with people that this is what you're going to do. You can't quit. I start creating all the little pieces that go with it. I start looking up how to start a podcast, right? Because like I said, I had never done anything like this before. Never created a podcast. Like any type of meditation recordings that I did for my YouTube channel, like I literally record them on my phone. I never used a mic. I've never used any recording equipment. Like I have no idea what to do. So I'm like, okay, Google, what is the simplest way to start a podcast? Like easy steps. I'm looking up on YouTube. I'm seeing what to do. And long story short, here I am. I'm talking on a mic, using my MacBook to record, and using like some software to edit, stuff like that. But nothing too fancy. But here I am creating this because I knew within my heart that this had to get out. And for a little while, right, my leadership program has ended, my self-development training ended, and I haven't started it. And there's people in my training that are like, hey, how's it going with this? I'm like, oh, I'm working on it. It's going to happen. They're like, you need to make it happen. Just pick a date. Pick a day to do it and make it happen. And of course, there's a part of me that's like, oh, man, maybe I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm just not. It's not going to happen. But then that voice comes back and it's like, you have to do this. I'm asking you to do this. You are being called to make this happen. And it's not just about you. It's about all these people that you're going to have on there that are going to impact and change the lives of other people that are listening. So your small self can't show up right now because it's not about you. And that was powerful for me. And when I feel doubt, I think of that it's not about me. And while you might be listening to me right now, this isn't a podcast for me. This podcast is created for you, for all the people that are going to be listening to this. Maybe I got like one follower. Maybe I got one person listening to this. I don't know right now. This is episode 1. But the point is that if we impact even one person's life to shift into the place where they are more connected and reminded of that deep connection to God, to source, that right there is what this is for. And that person will impact other people. And those people will impact other people. And this is how we change the world. So I had to do it. So that was the creation of the podcast. Now, the process of my own spiritual journey has been in the works, I'd say, since about like maybe 2015, 2016. And, I battled with myself of what spiritual experience to share. And one of the questions that I'm going to ask the people that are on this podcast is, what started your spiritual journey? Where did it begin for you? So I'm asking myself that same question. Where did my spiritual journey begin? And it started and began in about 2015, 2016. And it began with my older brother, who at the time was 27, having a motorcycle accident and passing away. And during this time, I was in a relationship that verbally was like really abusive. I was engaged to this person. It was like really like a horrible situation. And I lost my brother, and we have his funeral. We go through all that. And I am in this house now with this person that I call my fiance. And they're like upset and angry with me that I am still sad. And this is like in the week after. This isn't like months later. This is like the week after. They're upset that I'm crying so much. And it's a shock to me that this is how this person's reacting, because this is a traumatic event. It's always sad to lose people, 100%. And losing somebody at a young age when it's not expected, we do expect to get old and die. Like, it's going to happen to every single one of us, every living thing. And just it being so sudden was the horrible thing for me. At the time, I was 25 years old. I'm now 35. So I've been on my spiritual journey for the last 10 years. And I'm in this home and I'm looking for an escape. And at the time, my mind is not at the spot where I'm like, I can just leave, right? Your mind, when you're in certain relationships, is like connected to all these things. And you're like, oh, I can't just leave. I love this person. We've built this thing together, blah, 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 like all the stuff that comes up, right? So I'm like, I need an escape. So every day, and I had like been looking up some stuff and I found out about meditation. So I decided I was going to start meditating and implement that into my life. So every day for like 20 minutes, I start meditating. And I'm meditating. And when I meditate, I'm meditating on my brother. And I'm meditating on him being in happiness and in love. So I want to pause there for a second and just rewind that before my brother had passed, we were talking in a thread, in a text thread with each other. And I was messaging him something and being really short and kind of angry with him. And it was because my partner at the time was angry at me and pushing me to push my brother, because my brother was getting something for him and it hadn't arrived yet. And my brother responds to me when I'm going at him with this angry energy. And he says, my family calls me Nikki. He was like, Nikki, I know this isn't you. I know this is him. It's not you. This is not who you are. You know, and at that moment, it didn't mean anything to me other than like, dude, like, get the stuff. Like, I don't know what's going on, but like, we've been waiting. We already paid for you to order this stuff, right? That was the last conversation that I had with my brother. And that was a heavy guilt that I felt. And the night my brother passed, I had a dream about him, and he came to me in my dream. And I was sad and crying and trying to like sob. And I like fell on the ground and was like hugging his leg. And he's like, very calmly, he tells me, hey, stop crying. And he stands me up. He's like, it's all okay. He's like, talk with me. And this couch just was there. And it's like white. Everything's like white. It's like the nothingness, but white. And there's this couch in the middle of that. And we sit down on this couch and we're talking. My mind at that point was gone. Like, I don't remember what our conversation was about, but I do remember waking up in the morning feeling so surrounded with love. Now we're fast forwarding again to when I'm meditating. And I'm meditating on my brother, and that thought comes up that this is not you. This is him. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think this is a relationship for me. And I have this feeling, but I'm still there. So I keep meditating, keep working on it, keep doing it. Then fast forward, maybe like a couple weeks later, something happens with him and my son. And at that time, my son is younger. He's still living with us, with me. And it was him getting upset with my son over something so minuscule and the amount of anger that he had, immediately this thing came in like, if he treats you with the verbal abuse, because he would call me names and make fun of me. And I don't know if you can hear that, but here comes the sirens in the background being like, ah. If he's doing that to you, imagine what it will be like for your son. And at the time, he was young. So I'm like, this is it. I literally, in that moment, said, I am done. I packed up some of our things and I called. At the time, his mom was super helpful. I called her and I said, I need you to come pick us up right now. And she knew my son and she was very kind to my son and took very good care of him. So she comes, picks us up, and that was it. That's the last time that I was in that relationship. So that was really the big starter for my spiritual journey, because after that and after that relationship, I started implementing meditation into my life, exercise, yoga, movement, being out in nature. And I was living on my own and I was single for a couple of years. So I would meditate pretty much daily. I would exercise daily. And I'm not talking like going to the gym, getting ripped. Like, I don't think I went to the gym one time during this time. I literally would go hiking. I would go hiking in these sand dunes that were behind my house. At the time, I lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I would go hiking in these sand dunes. I would take my son. I'd go hiking in the Sandia Mountains. I would do yoga. I would sit outside and watch the stars, the sun, the moon. I would meditate on this windowsill. I lived in this little tiny room that was maybe 8 to 10 feet long and maybe like 4 to 6 feet wide. And it's like a storage room. And I lived in there. I was like, I lived with family at the time. We were all renting this home together. I was like, I love it. It's a little space. I'm good. My family was like, you're crazy. I'm like, I love it. It's perfect. And in this room, right outside the window was this sill that was like a big sill. Like it was probably like 4 feet long by like 2 to 3 feet wide. So I would get my meditation pillow and just put it outside the sill, open it, didn't have a screen on the window, and I would sit out there and meditate. And literally I would like be underneath the stars and the moon, and it was incredible. And I would do that almost every single day. And my life just started to shift and change. And it was like something inside of me woke up. I had been living a life of the automatic, repeating patterns, living in this way that's very superficial, very dependent on me looking good, me making sure that people know that I look good, making sure that I'm making money, making sure that I'm in a space where I'm hanging out with my friends, partying, going out. Like that was my life before. And when I came to this moment, this time in my life, I was not doing any of that. I was in solitude. I was with myself. I was like working on my mind, my body, my soul in a way that I had never done before. And it really shifted my entire being, where I looked different. I got in the best shape of my life doing just what I was doing, running, hiking, yoga. That's what I was doing. I wasn't going to the gym. And I would do like a leg workout at home like once a week. It was my Friday leg workout. And it was incredible how not only physically beautiful I looked, but how internally beautiful I felt. And that internal beauty was shining on the outside. It was incredible. Everywhere I went, people would tell me, "You're glowing, you're shining. Who are you? What are you doing? I want to know you." And I never felt so good in my life as I did at that time. So I'm living there. And at the time, things happened in my life where things shifted with my family. And we all were moving and going our separate ways. And something had been calling me to California. And I do have family here. However, it wasn't just my family. It was the ocean that was calling me here. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to move to California. And my family, my immediate family, I was living with extended family in this other home that I was at in Albuquerque, New Mexico. My immediate family, like my parents, were like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm still like on this freaking spiritual high. I'm like, "Look, I'm being called to go. I'm going to go." And I literally packed up my car with some things. I packed up everything else, put it in a shed, and I'm like, "I'm leaving." And I moved to California. And when I got here, I was just in awe of how beautiful the ocean is, all the palm trees everywhere, all the green, because there is green in New Mexico. There's some great places, especially if you go towards the mountains or close to water. It's green and it's beautiful. However, a lot of the places that I lived were more dry deserty. So coming to California to live here, which I had visited before, but this energy was different because I'm on this spiritual space. I'm in this spiritual space, like mentally, physically, spiritually. So I'm going to the ocean literally every day after work. And I am going for a jog. I'm jogging on the ocean, maybe about like a mile in the sand, sometimes on the sidewalk. And then I'd go swimming. I'd go swimming in the ocean. And it was such a beautiful, divine experience just doing that, just being connected to nature in that way. And one day I'm listening to music while I'm sitting on the beach. And at the time, this isn't like a psychedelic experience, okay? Those absolutely have happened, but I'm going to save those for another podcast. This was like having a psychedelic experience without using psychedelics, without using anything to be in this state. And I'm sitting on the beach and it's sunset and I'm listening to this music. And it's not like music that's like workout music or like this rapping music or this girl power music. It's this high vibrational music that is just pretty much sounds and like feminine vocal. So I'm listening to this music and I'm sitting on the beach and I'm watching the waves. And as I'm watching them, literally, I can't even explain this in fullness, but literally with every single beat of the music, every single place that it shifted, every time that she sang or said a word or had a specific note or frequency, the waves and the ocean in front of me would move and tumble and come in and recede and would flow with every single beat of this music. And it was the beauty of unison, the beauty of harmony. And it showed me how everything is connected to everything else. And that lesson, that was such a powerful and incredible lesson. And I will never forget that. I won't. I will never forget it. People might say it's coincidence. I don't believe in those coincidences. It was real. And it was absolutely incredible. And you know what? I think about it now and I rewind myself back to that moment. And I was in such a space vibrationally where I was able to recognize the language and connection of the universe just in that moment, seeing how everything works in tandem with everything else. It was so incredibly beautiful. It's an experience that I'll never forget. It's something that I'm going to take with me for the rest of my life. That's just one of many that I've had. Now, have I had something as connected as that, where I'm physically looking at something and it's in unison working in the same time with whatever I'm listening to or with whatever I'm doing? Not that I've noticed. That doesn't mean that it's not happening, because it is. Everything is happening in that way. However, for me to have it be like this show, it was like the ocean and the music were putting on this show in nature just for me. And it was divine. And I wasn't on drugs, just, like people always say, like, oh, you're doing drugs. It wasn't a drug thing. However, to that point, when people say that, drugs aren't, depending on the drugs. I know people are thinking, like, specifically, I'm going to say it, right? The psychedelics. They're like, oh, you're on drugs. That is not in my space. And what I've learned from the plant medicine and the spiritual energy that lives within them, it is not a drug. It is a medicine. It is a spirit awakening, bringing back memory, energy, so much to us that our own self, our being that's living here, that's seeing through these eyes, would never pick up, know, or understand without the support and guidance of plant medicine. And if we do figure things out, it takes a while. Or like this moment with me on the beach, it takes us being in that state where we are able to see with a different set of eyes, because our energy and where we're at is in a completely different space. And this was happening to me. I think a big part of it was the physical exercise that I was doing. Our body is a big part of that. And the meditation that I was doing. The meditation and the physical body being connected in that mind, body, soul. And that's why I was able to see that in that space. So I have definitely shifted, which will happen, because the spiritual journey isn't linear, and it's not just a circle. And this was another message that I'll share at one time, that we complete. It's something that we're constantly growing. We're constantly shifting and evolving. And sometimes we come back to visit things within ourselves that we feel maybe we transcended, that we graduated from, but really, like, maybe we need to revisit that again. So at this time, me now, that was me. I was probably like 26, 27 years old. Now at this time, I'm 35. I definitely don't meditate every single day. And if I do meditate every single day, I start to feel that connectedness. However, this is my lesson, right? Is getting caught up in the fast pace of LA life and being in a position where now the I don't have time comes up a lot, as I'm sure it comes up for a lot of other people in LA. Like, I don't have time to do that. We're literally in traffic for hours. Like, hours of my day is spent just in traffic to get to and from wherever I'm going. So we come up with those reasonings of why we can't meet ourselves. And that's part of my journey that I'm revisiting right now. So this podcast isn't just an awakening and a reconnection to the source for me, but for every single person that's listening. And like other people, I also sometimes need a reminder of who and what I truly am. Because right now, I'll tell you what, I'm definitely not glowing like I used to. Not as much. I glow. There's days I do, especially when I go to the forest. I'll share that experience on another podcast. Forest, ocean, right? When I make time to do the things that I love, I'm glowing. And it happens. Meditating, I'm glowing. I'm connected. So when I put into practice those things, these spiritual experiences, they become more consistent. They start showing up more frequently. They pop up in my everyday life, in everything, and in a way that I see them. Because don't get me wrong, like it's happening. They're popping up everywhere. It's all around us. It's everywhere. But we don't recognize and we don't see because we're so distracted. That right there is just a tiny glimpse into part of my spiritual experience, specifically what got me to my spiritual awakening. And the other question that I'm going to be asking and that I'm going to ask myself is, what is the biggest lesson, the greatest lesson that has been learned during the spiritual journey? And I think if I take myself back to the moment when I started waking up after my brother had passed, the lesson that I gained from waking up during that experience was that the only moment that we truly have and that we exist in is right here and right now. Whatever you're doing, wherever you are listening to this, know that this very moment is the only thing that exists. And just like that, we're in the next moment. And here we are. And this is now the moment we're existing in. And now we're in another one. And it's another moment. And it's new. And in those moments, we have the opportunity to change the way that we want to look at life. And I learned that with my brother passing, because my brother was gone and it was a shock. And one moment he was there and next he was gone. Just like that. In the blink of an eye. So in the blink of an eye, the moment can change. Your life can change. Somebody's life can change. And somebody's life, our life, my life, your life, anybody's life could be gone. Just like that. In the blink of an eye. So live now. Be here now. Because you never know when that moment's going to change, when that life might be gone. And it's a big lesson. Not only that I needed to learn, but also that I feel like a lot of us, many people in the world need to know and live. Because we spend so much of our time in anger, in hatred, in fear, in wanting, that we're keeping ourselves from living in the here and now, in the beautiful moment that exists right now, that I can shift any energy that comes up for me and do it in a different way. Just like the energy that was coming up for me with starting this podcast. In that moment when I was sitting there looking at the book, looking at the authors' names and thinking, I can't write them. I can't reach out to them. That was fear talking. That's the adversary speaking. And in that moment, I could have chosen to live with that fear, and that fear would have continued on in my future moments. However, in that same moment, probably the next moment, right? Because we're in a next one all the time. In the next moment, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And I'm going to write them. And I did. And here we are, now in this moment together. And this moment never would have happened if I had not lived in that moment in love and in courage and in doing instead of wanting, instead of fear. I acted. And that's what made this so. And now I'm living in this moment, in this beautiful moment right here with you, making this podcast a reality and bringing all of us together. Thank you for being here today. I'll see you next time on episode 2. Thank you for joining us on this sacred journey through the feminine voice of God. We hope that the stories shared and the spiritual insights explored have resonated with your soul and ignited a spark within your own spiritual quest. As we part ways for now, Remember that the divine feminine resides within each of us, waiting to be heard, felt, and embraced. May you carry the wisdom and love shared in these episodes into your days, allowing the feminine voice of God to guide you on your own path of spiritual growth and transformation. Stay connected with us on our social platforms, share your thoughts, and continue to nurture your spiritual connection with the divine in all of its forms. Until we meet again, may the sacred essence of the feminine within you shine brightly and lead you towards greater understanding, compassion, and joy. Thank you for being a part of the feminine voice of God. Blessings to you on your spiritual journey.